85 will always be open.
Welcome to New Stripe City, an urban podcast for die-hard Bengals fans, and today is episode 5, entitled Still Rivals. So on today's episode, it's actually going to be a little bit out of the norm, as we'll have our very first Behind Enemy Lines segment, in which I'll interview a Steelers fan by the name of Vibe Transcender. In this segment, we'll touch on the a.Vontzae Burfict hit, the heated rivalry between the Bengals and Steelers fans themselves, as well as William Jackson III and Artie Burns, and everything else Bengals and Steelers related. I hope you guys enjoy. That brings us to our announcement segment, and I just want to announce that I am pleased that New Stripe City is now available in the iTunes store under the podcast section. So make sure you go in and you find us and subscribe. And our name on iTunes is New Stripe City. And now for the moment you guys have all been waiting for, Behind Enemy Lines. Take a listen into our interview. Welcome to New Stripe City. It's your boy Ace Boogie. I've got a special guest on here. Go ahead, say your name. Let them know where you're from.
I'm Pedram. I'm a Steelers fan. I know I'm about to get all this hate pouring in, but I listened to Ace here's podcast a couple times, and I thought he was very respectful, and he had a lot of facts backing what he said. So I kind of wanted to join in and get in on this intellectual conversation.
Nice.
Get some of my thoughts across, what I kind of disagree with, what he says, and see where it goes.
Right,
I think it's a good discourse.
Right. It's always good to have opinions from both sides.
Exactly.
So with our Behind Enemy Lines segment, we'll kick it off with a.Vontzae Burfict.
So, all right. So I see what I listened to the last episode you put out where you talked about a.Vontzae Burfict and how he's like a bully. And I think all teams need a bully, and I think that's great that he's taken up that role. My issue with a.Vontzae Burfict is he just injures players,
Right.
Like it's cool when you're like a bully and you have that intimidation factor going for you.
Right.
But when you're like taking players out of the game, I'm just not about that.
Right.
Like the Le'Veon Bell, I have no problem with that personally. After reviewing it, I really thought it was a freak accident. Did he celebrate after it? I mean, maybe you say, but there's really no evidence, and I don't really think he could tell that's what happened. So I'm not gonna go there and make those accusations.
Right.
But okay, so did you see the Ben hit where he hurt Ben?
Now, I did see the Ben hit, and that was the one that I referenced that I felt like that was a dirty play.
So not the one where he jumped into his legs, but the one where he actually hurt him in the playoff game?
Yes,
I
remember that hit.
Right. So there's actually footage of it where you can see after he brings him down, he actually drives his knee into him.
Right.
I don't know. Have you seen that?
I have seen that one. That's the one where I felt like that was inappropriate. I felt like that was definitely a dirty hit. I kind of feel like that was similar. It might have been actually worse than the Cam dirty play that he had, where he kind of twisted the ankle a little bit.
Yeah, man. Hopefully he can just cut those down. That's just it's all cool, but once you're taking players out of the game, I'm just not about that.
Right, and I totally agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, the AB hit personally, I definitely think it was it was somewhat dirty. He could have pulled out, but I definitely think on the other hand, he could have hurt him much worse.
Right.
I don't think, even though it was a much worse, result, I think the Ben hit was more dirty than the one on AB. I've seen way harder hits. I just think it was an unfortunate situation where AB kind of ducked his head into his shoulder.
Right.
But yeah, that's just my main. I think he's a great talent. I think he's not he's not the most athletic guy at all, not even close. But I think he has probably the best football instincts of any linebacker in the league right now. But his lack of athleticism can really like hurt him. If he was like athletic, I think he would be easily one of the top linebackers in the league.
Right, I agree.
That's my opinion on him.
Now, I heard your opinion on Burfict, but in comparison to other guys, we in the jungle, we kind of feel like that same argument that you made about guys trying to hurt each other has been a theme of the past. So, in comparison to the Carson Palmer knee injury, when this comes up, it seems like Steeler fans don't, I guess in a sense, take the ownership of that being a dirty hit or that being a hit where he intentionally tried to injure Carson Palmer with chemo von Offen. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so the chemo hit, I don't honestly I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, but I don't think it was dirty. It could have been, but I don't know his intent. Right. Another thing about the chemo hit was after he went to check on Carson Palmer. I don't know. I saw I've never seen Burfict go check up on any players. And also another thing with that comparison, another kind of thought I have to add is that Burfict, he's basically taken out our best players, He took out Bell, he took out Ben, he took out AB. When it's one guy doing that, it really rattles you up.
Right. See, I get what you're saying, but
that's kind of where Steelers fans come from. The Le'Veon Bell, but when it's one guy just taking out our most important players, it really kind of stings. That's kind of the frame of mind that we come from.
Now, to me, and I'm just gonna be honest, I feel like the chemo von Offen hit was worse just because he targeted a knee. Not making an excuse for Vontaze Burfict, but it seems like he put all of his weight into Carson Palmer's knee. So just the area of him going for a knee, intentionally, even on the Burfict hit where he hit Le'Veon Bell, he didn't go right at the knee. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to me, it was, I don't know, it was kind of a gray area there, especially with the earlier matchup where Carson Palmer had a pretty good game against you guys during the season. And I mean, everyone in the jungle feels like that was supposed to be the year we actually got our first playoff win. But I also, it's tough for me, man, just because...
Yeah, because of the history?
Because of the history. Even the Hines Ward play. So do you feel the Hines Ward play...
Yeah.
How do you feel about that one?
I feel that was dirty, but I always... Whenever we're having these conversations, I always hear, the jungle versus Steeler Nation. You guys always bring up, all the old hits from, 2006, 2005, that kind of era.
Right.
And don't you think, 10 years ago, it was kind of a different game, right? Can you really compare the, I thought there was a lot more dirty players, there was a lot more hard hits like that,
right,
that at the time would not be classified as dirty as they are now. And also the rules, man, the rules have changed so much. It's so hard now as a defensive player to, legally,
hit
deliver
somebody.
A blow. You
right.
feel me?
Yeah, and I can see that. I just think that outside of Vontaze Burfict, either in this era or that era, who can you say on the Bengals has intentionally tried to hurt someone on the Steelers?
Yeah, that's a good point, but I have to think about that.
See, because to me, there's guys that just come through, and I mean, I softened my stance up a little bit on them, but guys
who do you think? Okay, who do you think intentionally tries to hurt Bengals off of this roster that we have now? So one thing
off of this roster, I can say Mike Mitchell.
Mike
Mitchell for sure. And I mean, he's had a dirty rap even before he came to the Steelers, so he's always been, in a sense, a dirty player. But let me see. Outside of him, I can't really say Ryan Shazier, but
no, you cannot.
It was a helmet-to-helmet hit, but I don't think he intentionally tried to do it.
Yeah, go ahead and finish up.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Ryan Shazier hit, but I didn't see any malintent. All right, there hasn't been a history with Ryan Shazier being a dirty player. So outside of him, I can't really say anyone else. I have seen that play against the Broncos where Cody Wallace. Right.
Yeah, that was not our proudest moment. The thing was, he felt like AB was kind of cheap shotted, so he felt like he was already going on his way down, and then Malik Jackson just kind of pounded him down after like a huge body on AB's small 175, 180-pound frame.
Right.
So he thought that was kind of unnecessary, so he went after David Bruton, which I have no idea why he did that. It made no sense, but that's kind of what he was thinking. He was like, oh, you get our guy, so I'm going to get yours. But yeah, there was no need for what he did because,
Right.
Even though it may have been unnecessary, what Malik Jackson did was legal. So, yeah, you're right. And one thing I have to say about, always comparing these dirty players is that, yeah, they may have been dirty, what have you, but I feel like you can't really tout somebody on our team if he's not on our roster, right? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? I don't know. That's kind of how a lot of Steeler Nation feels. Like, we'll have arguments about Burfict, but then you bring up guys that aren't on our team. Like, is it payback? Like, did AB deserve that? Like,
I don't. And this is my thing. Now, the AB hit, to me, that wasn't really a hit like that. To me, it could have warranted a flag, but in honesty, I feel like if Burfict really wanted to take AB out, he could have. So to me,
I agree with that.
He could have really wrecked that guy if he really wanted to. Now, I still don't agree with what he did because to me, given the status of that game, that was a bonehead play. You never put your team in that kind of position.
Right.
But to me, with his intent on that play, I didn't agree with how much that one was speculated.
I agree with what you said. My issue as far as play-wise or intent-wise with Burfict was if you watch the play, you see like Burfict, he'll run, I want to say, 10 to 12 yards down towards Antonio, and he doesn't even look at the ball. Like, you can tell he just kind of wants to blow him up.
Right.
And at the end, he does, like, I completely agree. He could have just destroyed him if he wanted to.
Right.
But I also feel like he could have completely pulled off, but...
I agree, and I agree to a point because I played football before, and I know when you're defending a pass, if you take your eyes off of the player and look at the ball, like AB could be going in for 6. Because I played corner, I was always taught when you're on a receiver, you always watch the receiver to kind of figure out when he's going to get the ball. You never take your eyes off of the receiver. So
exactly. That's how you're supposed to play until the last second.
Right.
Especially in the NFL, you're going to get flagged.
Right. Especially with somebody like AB, too. I mean, look at the year that the guy put up. You don't want to let the guy, get out of your sights and end up scoring a touchdown.
Overall, I just hope we can have, like, healthy games.
Right.
And not injuries, We want Tyler Eifert to stay healthy. He's a great player.
Right.
And, hopefully just, no injuries. I want to see some good, hard-nosed football. Maybe you can have some, a little extra here and there. That's all cool. It's part of the game.
Right.
But I just hope nobody really gets taken out. That's my only wish.
And I agree. I'm definitely with you on that. It's all cool and everything to have a rivalry, but things just definitely got out of control. And I honestly... I don't want to say I knew that it, and you probably knew too because you watched the games. We all on both sides knew what was going to happen.
Knew.
After that second game, we all knew.
Everybody was playing it down too. Yeah, after the second game, and when we found out we were going to meet in the playoffs, everybody knew like it was going down. Even like both teams played it off. They're like, yeah, we know we don't talk about this.
Right.
They're like, I remember both teams like in interviews they were like, yeah, we've done some extra things, but our focus is to eliminate all that stuff. Everybody knew that was bull. Like, we knew that was going to be a bloodbath. What I kind of wanted to touch on is the whole William Jackson III versus Artie Burns thing. Because I actually did a lot of research on both of these guys. And I kind of wanted to give my thoughts on both.
Right.
I think it's really funny overall, like, how childish both sides can be. Like, both Steelers fans. I've seen so many childish Steelers fans and Bengals fans' responses over this whole situation. Like, Bengals fans will be like, we stole William Jackson III from you guys. So, you know how Carnell Lake came out and said he wanted William Jackson III?
Right.
And, so I actually was looking through the Steelers Reddit, and everybody was like, no, dude, we didn't want him. It's just, the guy who recorded it is not a reputable source. And they were giving like ridiculous reasons as to why we would like Burns. So the thing with the Bengals is the Bengals are, especially as of late, they've been drafting very well. There's no way an organization of that caliber would let the fact that they want to keep a player, especially in the draft, from a team influence their decision. Like, let's just say the Steelers had, like, hypothetically, the Steelers have the best corners in the league. I'm 100% sure, like, the Bengals still take William Jackson. You would agree with that, right?
I definitely agree with that. I mean, They've taken so many corners in the first round.
Why? And you guys keep missing on them, though, huh?
Well, we've missed on, I'd probably say Drake Kirkpatrick. I don't think you can say c.Darqueze Dennard yet, because the way that we kind of do things is we bring guys in, we let them sit behind guys for about 2 to 3 years. It's just I would say it's a strategy that we use to reduce the probability of a guy becoming a bust, because if you're a young corner and you get thrown out there after being in college, I mean, the NFL is totally a different game, so we kind of try to get guys to sit behind and learn everything before we just throw them out there. Now, c.Darqueze, you can't really say that he's a bust yet.
Yeah, the thing about c.Darqueze is he was picked before Jason Verrett and Bradley Roby, which are 2 incredible corners right now. That's my only mission. Maybe he could, bloom and become a very good player, but the fact that he was... First of all, in the Chargers game, Jason Verrett basically shut down AB.
True.
And then, obviously, you know what Bradley Roby is. Bradley Roby basically cost us the game. He's a great quarterback.
Oh, yeah. Of course, Ohio State. For sure. For sure.
So I think, without a doubt, you can say those guys are quite, a decent amount better than c.Darqueze. And, yeah, maybe he could still blossom, but the only thing is that he was picked before those 2 guys. So that's why... I would kind of call him a missed pick.
The thing is, to me, he's not a miss yet. Now, Drake Kirkpatrick, I agree that he's a miss. But if you go back to that year, c.Darqueze Dennard actually was supposed to be one of the first corners taken in that draft. He wasn't even supposed to be available at 24. So he was actually a steal for where we got him at. Now,
yeah, but you know how that always works out, right? Look who was the first cornerback picked in that draft, which was Justin Gilbert.
Right.
So,
right, but Justin Gilbert has actually played. See, the only thing is, this will probably be the first year that Dennard is actually playing. I mean, he can't come in and start over. At the time when he came in, we had Leon Hall, we had Pac-Man Jones, we had Terrence Newman. He had about 4 guys. Like every corner that we have on our team, almost every one of them was a first-round corner at some time in their career. So there's a lot of depth at corner. Now, he wanted to come in, and times that c.Darqueze Dennard has been in, he has made plays. The very first time that he got in, he stripped a guy for a fumble. The second time he got in, he had like an interception last year. So the only problem with him is the snaps aren't there. Now, Jason Verrett, I agree, is definitely on another level, and Bradley Roby is definitely on another level. I just feel like Drake Kirkpatrick, I'm sold on what he is, and I know what he is because he had last year, he was out there, and the year before that, at the end of the season, he was a starting corner. But we have so many corners that we can't start everyone. So,
okay, but one thing I would say is he hasn't played because of depth, right? Not injury.
Yeah, it's been depth, and he got hurt. Now, he did get hurt last year.
He did get hurt, but it's mainly been depth, correct?
I want to say he might have had a little bit of an injury that first year too.
I would consider that, maybe some injuries here and there kept him from starting, could be, but I would say for the most part that's a depth. That lack of snaps is a depth issue, correct?
Definitely.
Pick somebody and he's not able to become productive just because of injury or whatever, I would still consider that like a miss. Our second round draft pick was this guy named c.Darqueze Golston, who was a really promising cornerback.
Right.
But he's like 5'9", ridiculous ball skills, but he tore his shoulder. There was some reports that he could have had shoulder issues, and not even in training camp. I think it was OTAs or mini camp. He tore his labrum or something, so we lost him for the whole year. He is still super promising, and he's supposed to be working out with William Gay actually soon.
Right.
I would still consider that sort of a miss if you're not able to get him on the field.
Right.
But so even c.Darqueze, if he was on Jason Verrett or Bradley Roby, personally, I actually think Bradley Roby is better than Jason Verrett. I know people would argue with me, but that's my opinion.
Right.
If he was that good, he would for sure be on the field.
It's hard, man. I'm telling you, it's hard. Like, we have a lot of good players. For example, this is the thing with the Bengals. The only rookies who have ever started for us from day one, this is just how Marvin Lewis likes to do things, have been Andy Dalton and A.J. Green. Outside of those guys, I'll bring you up a perfect example. Tyler Eifert was a first-round pick, right?
Yeah.
Tyler Eifert, his first year, he barely played because we had Jermaine Gresham. Okay.
Wait, didn't Tyler Eifert like slide like crazy? Like, you guys didn't even need to pick him. It was just ridiculous value, right?
Ridiculous value. So we picked him up, but we picked him up knowing that he could possibly be a replacement for Jermaine Gresham. So the first year he plays, but he plays sparingly. I think he ended up with about 4 touchdowns. The next year he gets hurt. Last year was his very first time actually being a starter. So last year you got to see what he could actually do. And that's what we do with our guys. We kind of mold them up, and then when they're ready, we throw them in there. And that's how it kind of operates. Even with the first-round pick last year, we took Cedric Ogbuehi. We didn't need a right tackle. We had Andre Smith. We had Andrew Whitworth. And it's not that he wasn't good enough to start. It's just that you had 2 top linemen in front of you. And so this offseason, Andre Smith walks, so now Cedric Ogbuehi is going to be the starter at right tackle. And that's just how the Bengals kind of work with our whole, I guess, draft philosophy in terms of starting players.
See what you're saying, how it's sort of like a systematic thing with the Bengals, how they like to bring up their players.
Right.
But I just don't, like, there's no way you should have, if he was even somewhat decent, there's no way you should have Dre Kirkpatrick starting.
We definitely need to replace Dre Kirkpatrick. He's a miss. I'm not saying that we definitely don't. I'm definitely not saying that we hit on every player. But there's guys like Margus Hunt and Dre Kirkpatrick and guys that we just completely missed on.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I kind of might be the only one who likes to look at drafts that way. I really like analyzing drafts to see who was good. Right. But if there's like a player who was picked and then directly around them, similar positions, who the player could still be good, right? Or even great. Right. But at the same position, there's better players that were picked very closely after him. I still like to consider it a miss. One thing I wanted to bring up was, like, I know we kind of stopped talking about this, but the whole fiasco that happened in the playoff game between the Steelers and Bengals. Right. So one thing Bengals fans always seem to like cry about and pinpoint is how Joey Porter was on the field when he shouldn't have been, right? But if you look at the Geo hit, there was like 15 Bengals coaches on the field. Oh, I don't know if you've seen that video, but
no, I haven't seen that video. Oh wow. My recollection of what I've heard, which hasn't been released really, is that Joey Porter actually was before the game. He was bigging up a.Vontzae Burfict. I've heard from some sources, I can't elaborate on who the sources were, but Wallace Gilberry actually had an issue with Todd Haley. Apparently, there was a rumor that Todd Haley, and I know that you saw this come out because it was on, it made some of the headlines before the game, but there was a bounty put on Wallace Gilberry by his former coach, Todd Haley. So from what I heard is, I guess Wallace Gilberry didn't hear what was going on, and he assumed that Joey Porter was, I guess, in a sense, talking some trash. Him and Pac-Man assumed the worst, and things escalated to the point that they did, as we saw play out on TV.
Personally, I don't like to live in the rumors, but I've definitely heard that. Right. Yeah, actually, what I heard was, like, Joey Porter was actually, like, giving a.Vontzae Burfict props.
Right, that's what I said.
Burfict even said that, right? Didn't he say that?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Hey, bro, you remind me of my playing days. I respect you for that. And then I guess Adam Pac-Man Jones didn't realize that, so he just came and pushed him.
Right.
And also Wallace Gilberry bumped him. But yeah, check out I think it was just a catastrophe overall, but just check out the pic I sent you.
Okay.
Or if you did.
We'll do. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen that, right?
Right. Now, was this during a timeout, or was this, like, live on the field?
No, this was, like, directly live. And, like, if I search harder, I can see the video. But have you seen the sound effects of when Gio gets hit?
I mean, this has to be during a timeout because a guy has his helmet off. The guy is taking a knee like towards the middle of the field, towards the B logo. The Steelers guy, he has his helmet off.
Yeah, if you look at the sound effects video, that may be true. But if you look at the sound effects video of the Geo hit, you can say direct because it's like showing the sound of the Bengals sideline, and they're all like, "Oh, what? That's a hit to the head! Hey, he hit him in the head! What's wrong with you, ref?" You can see all the coaches like instantly jump off onto the field. So,
but I mean, there's Steeler coaches in this picture too, and then I mean, just the guy with the helmet off. I'll have to take a look at it myself.
Yeah, definitely check it out. But it's some good food for thought. Yeah, the thing I kind of wanted to ask you was what you think of the comparison between Artie Burns and William Jackson III. How you would compare them?
And I'm from the school of thought like you. I really take and I really do a lot of research on the draft, and I pay a lot of attention to it.
For sure.
Artie Burns actually came up as a topic of discussion with some of my draft guys, and we talked about a lot of these guys that we broke down. And Artie Burns, to me, he was cool, but even at his best, to me, he was like at best a second to third rounder. So to me, it was like when I saw you guys take him, I kind of was shocked. I honestly thought that you guys would have taken like Mackenzie Alexander or Fuller's brother like before him. I just thought that it was like way too early for Artie Burns to go in the first round. So I mean, to me, it was just like, wow, I didn't think that you guys should have taken him at that point. I feel like you guys could have, if you guys would have taken Mackenzie Alexander, then I would have been cool with that. I don't think there would have been any kind of, I guess, harsh criticism of it. But if the Bengals would have taken Artie Burns, I would have made fun of us, just to be honest. It just wasn't just because it was the Steelers. Like, if anyone would have taken Artie Burns in the first round, I would have, like, really went in on him because to me, he just wasn't worth that pick. Especially in a draft like this.
Okay, so in terms of like, not where you would predict him, but specific attributes, like maybe William Jackson is a better coverage player or something.
Oh,
or
to
like
be
Artie
honest
Burns.
with you, what was crazy was I actually thought that William Jackson III was the best corner in the draft. I felt that his size gave him an advantage. I felt that his speed gave him an advantage. He was great in man-to-man. He could also play zone. He was just a very solid corner. So I was surprised and shocked that he was even there.
Okay, well, I can see how you would. I would have to disagree with what you're saying about him being the best corner in the draft. I can. A lot of people say he's in their opinion the best corner in the draft. Obviously, we can't say any of this like legitimately because there's no tape on them. None of them have played. But
right.
Personally, I do agree. Like, I really am not high on Jalen Ramsey at all. I do not think. I think. Like,
I don't even know how. See, to me, I always looked at, and I actually live in Tallahassee. I actually looked at Jalen Ramsey as more of a safety.
Back to the whole Artie Burns, William Jackson thing.
Right.
I think William Jackson is for sure better than Artie Burns, but I disagree. I think Artie Burns is still a first round talent, maybe early second round. But the thing was like us as the Steelers, I guess we were pretty high on him.
Right.
And actually, there were a bunch of reports even before the draft, and there were reports coming out of Arizona after the draft that with that pick, the Cardinals were targeting Artie Burns. So it wasn't only the Steelers. But so as far as attributes go, I really like to like compare these corners. On the Steelers Reddit, they posted that Cardinal actually wanted William Jackson III, which I can easily see.
Right.
There's people there's a bunch of Steelers fans. They're like, this guy. He said, "I doubt it. William Jackson III is not a typical Steelers first rounder, but Artie Burns is." And I was like, all right, bro, let's not do mental gymnastics. I love that word.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure 95% of people would agree that Jackson, as far as playing now, is better than Artie Burns.
Right.
And you can just look at the tape and the statistics.
Right.
Even William Jackson, he actually ran a faster 40 than Artie Burns, which is what everybody talks Artie Burns about, is his athleticism.
Right.
Now, I do think that after watching the tape, I do think that Artie Burns does play faster
Right.
even though he may not have ran a better 40.
Right.
And I do think overall Artie Burns holds the edge in athleticism.
Right.
But just looking at the tape, like William Jackson III was much stickier than Burns. It was like Burns was very bad.
Right.
And then people are like, oh, like could you make the argument that Burns did play in a harder conference?
You could make that argument.
Even though it's not that much, so I guess you could kind of make that argument.
Yeah, it's tough though because Florida State had a down year. Clemson probably was his most challenging team that he had to face.
Yeah. But if you look at this, just statistic-wise,
right?
People are always hyping like Artie Burns that he had 6 picks. Yeah, like he's a ball hawk, but look at this. Right. He had 6 picks, but only 5 passes defended.
Wow.
While William Jackson had 5 picks and 23 passes defended.
Wow.
Now, one thing is, I don't know why, but Artie Burns, I watched a lot of tape on him. He only played 65% of the snaps. Initially, I watched a lot of tape on William Jackson III, so I'm pretty well versed in this guy, obviously, because I really thought we were going to take him. Right. So I did my due diligence. My one gripe with him, and this is by far my biggest gripe, is dude is very trash in the run.
True. True.
He has some nice hits where he has this one hit where he completely blows up Dalvin Cook, who might be like the second best running back coming out next year.
Oh, he's the first, in my opinion.
You think he's better than Fournette?
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of people love Fournette, but I think that he's the best. That's a topic
for another day. But overall, if you see him, he just gets blown. Like he gets blown up by wide receivers. He misses a bunch of tackles, and yeah, like it just seems like when he gets even kind of blocked, like he puts no effort to get back in the play to run. Right. But like the thing about Burns is he has like this brash personality where he's always trying to kind of like Burfict, where he's always trying to like get into other people's faces, and he doesn't like let people just block him like that.
Right.
But that's the thing I would give Burns, right. And also Burns is 2 years younger than William Jackson, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's my whole spiel. We won't know until we actually see these guys play, but I'm just worried about like how William Jackson is gonna like tackle. And you guys aren't gonna start him probably, right? Like you're gonna bring him up through the whole special teams unit.
Now the thing, we usually with our corners, we always start them as gunners on special teams their first year, so he'll probably definitely get some special teams play. But he could come in and rotate only because he's an outside corner, so he doesn't really play in the nickel much, so they might run him in there a few times. We definitely did that with Josh Shaw last year, so it depends on how injuries affect the roster. But I think if anything, he may rotate in there a couple of times on the outside to give like Pac-Man or Dre a breather some plays, but definitely not heavily. He won't see heavy snaps that first year, for sure.
All right, man, for sure. I think I gotta head out now.
All right.
It was great talking, man. I thought we brought up some good discourse, some interesting topics.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I kind of wanted to like cover some other topics. I thought that could have been interesting, like players we think, some underrated players on both teams. But maybe that's a topic for another time. But overall,
for sure. Yeah,
I had fun. For sure, maybe we can do some of this in the future.
Thanks for being on the show. So in closing, I think that was a great interview. I'd love to do some more with Vibe in the future. Leave you guys as comments, subscribe, let us know what you guys are thinking, and let us know who had a good argument, who didn't have a good argument, and some of the key points that were made in this interview. So as always, Who Dey Nation, Who Dey, all day, every day, and especially on Sunday. Thanks for tuning in.